Brittany, the first question I got for you is like, so everyone knows you. I feel like when they see you on whether it's another interview or like an article written about you, they're gonna they're gonna put you on the Last Chance U. They're gonna recognize you from Last Chance U. But before you got to EMCC, what were you doing before that?
I was a counselor. I worked in college athletics for over 15 years. And so the last 8 were at East Mississippi.
Mhm.
But I had been an academic counselor at Mississippi State University before that. I'd also worked at Jacksonville State University in Alabama. So I had a career in college athletics doing exactly what I did at East Mississippi. Just, nobody cared until until I was on TV.
Is that what you wanted to do? I would assume because were you through education, communication, through college? Like, what was your major? Is that what you wanted to do? Like pursuing all that?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, if I'm being completely honest.
Right.
I majored in sport communication as an undergrad, but it wasn't like I aspired to be a sports reporter or Aaron
Right.
Andrews. I mean, Aaron Andrews wasn't even around, but I just, I loved sports. I knew I wanted to do something in athletics. I really didn't know. I didn't know what. And when I was in college, we didn't have the resources that students have now. I mean, we didn't have the internet really. We didn't
Right.
have, social media. We didn't have TV shows documentaries where you're watching people do their job. And so, it was really, you flip through a catalog and you looked at the classes you would take with a major and you kind of, guessed at what you wanted to do. And so I majored in sports communication. I actually had a terrible advisor who told me that I would never get a job because I was a female.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And she was kind of right. I mean, it was hard, a lot harder. And that, there wasn't really that open door for females in college athletics at the time.
Mhm.
My first job was actually working with the Charlotte Knights, which was AAA baseball club for the White Sox.
Okay.
So I did that and then just realized that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I went back to school, went back to Mississippi State to get my master's degree and was going to get my master's degree in sport administration, really hoping that I got some clarity while I was getting my master's on maybe what I would want to do.
Right.
And I asked for a graduate assistantship. And they gave me a graduate assistantship in the athletic academic office at Mississippi State. And I walked in, and there was a very strong female counselor that worked in the office that worked with football. And
Mhm.
she was just a beast. I mean, she was incredible, like just a boss. And
Right.
and was a single mom and like just the guys loved her. They respected her. She was really good at her job. And so she was my mentor. I worked under her as a graduate assistant and I knew immediately, that was exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And
Gotcha.
then that was it after that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then you go to EMCC, and then when the TV show comes in, like, what are your expectations? Because you've been doing it before that, before the TV show comes in. What were your expectations, kind of like, when they're bringing the cameras in, they're getting everything set up? Like, did you think it was going to take off the way it did?
No, I didn't. Well, I had worked at East Mississippi for 6 years
Yep.
before we filmed. And, I mean, I was more worried about the players. Like, I didn't really think I would be a part of it, honestly. Like, I thought, I'll be in a couple scenes, but I'm not going to be really in this show. Nobody's going to care about the academic lady. I mean, everybody's going to watch it to watch football.
Right.
So I was more worried about our players and like how people were going to perceive them and how it was going to affect them. And, the cameras wanted to go in the classrooms. And I was,
Mhm.
I was more worried about that. Like,
Right.
yes, we're on a TV show, but we still have to make our grades, like,
Right.
yes, we're on a TV show, but you still got to get the scholarship offer and you still got real life going on. And so I was a little bit more worried about that. I don't think any of us thought that anybody was going to watch the show. I
Right.
mean, we didn't, Netflix wasn't really what Netflix is now. it was at the beginning stages. And so we were all kind of like, Netflix, like what? Like, who are these people? What are they doing? Why are they filming us? And we had no idea. I mean, which I'm so thankful. I think about the people that are filming it now,
Hmm.
7 years after. And I'm so glad that I was on the first 2 seasons, because I think, when you're on the later seasons and you know what a success the show is,
Right.
I don't see how it doesn't affect like your mindset. I don't see how you go into it being 100% authentic
Right.
when you're probably going to be famous and like a huge deal immediately
Right.
after the show. And I didn't know that. And so I just was myself and thought like, well, hope my mom likes it. I mean, that was really kind of all I thought about, was I hope my dad doesn't get mad at me for cussing. And
He's probably proud of you, actually. He's probably like, you got to stick up for yourself in that show. He's probably a little proud of you for that.
yeah, my whole family, I was nervous. I really was nervous about what my family would think. And I was nervous about what the school would think. You do that and then it comes out and the president, of the college watches it and you're thinking, I could get fired, and
Right.
so it was really nice to see everybody's support and, and to not get fired. And yeah, it ended up being a good thing.
Yeah, you speak of that authenticity, because they're like what, 6 seasons into it, 7 seasons into it.
Yeah.
So the difference between the first season and the second season, like how big of a difference did you notice between, like, what did it still feel the same as season one, or when you were in season two, did it still feel the same a little bit because you knew what had happened or what you went through in season two, or just what was the difference? Was there a big gap between the difference of the 2 seasons that you were part of?
Yeah. For me, there was. It was season 2 was a lot harder, and I think you
Right.
can see it when you watch it. I think you
Yep.
can tell that I'm stressed
Right.
in season 2. And what people don't understand is season 1 came out in July.
Mm-hmm.
We started filming season 2 in August. So, I mean, the height of season 1 really didn't happen until October.
Okay.
And we were filming season 2. And so we were all dealing with, well, the players had moved on. So
Right.
the players were gone. And,
Mhm.
and, I'm dealing with filming season 2, the hugeness of season 1. I mean, I was doing some days 10 interviews a day like this, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
30 minutes here, 30 minutes there.
Yep.
I'm doing the Dan Patrick Show. I'm doing GQ Magazine. I'm doing Sports Illustrated. I mean, I'm doing all
Right.
these interviews from my desk.
Yep.
I'm filming a show. I've got a whole new team that's looking to me to get them, on the right track. I'm still a single mom.
Right.
I mean, it was a lot. And I was stressed out. I mean, there wasn't enough there just weren't enough hours in the day. I didn't have enough help. My emails, I mean, I was getting thousands of emails a day, because the other thing, when you work in an athletic department, you can go to any athletic department's website and their staff directory is online, and it includes people's email address. It includes people's office phone. And we didn't think to take that down before the show came out. And so the show comes out and my email and my phone are public knowledge. I mean, we had to hire a temporary worker to answer my phone, because people were just calling, randomly. And I was getting thousands of emails, and people were driving to Scuba and just showing up on campus, like looking for us. And it was crazy. And I think you could tell on the show that I was really, I was trying to be in the moment and trying to manage it all. And I don't know that I was doing a very good job, honestly, and I think some of the players, for the most part, the players that the crew spotlighted were authentic, great guys. But there were a few players on that team that I think just came to school there to be on the show. I mean, I don't think, and that was hard, because you had players now that were just trying to get famous and not really interested in anything that we were actually, trying to accomplish. So it was kind of hard to decipher between which guys were taking this seriously and which ones were just trying to get some camera time.
Yeah, that's hard to for you to do that with players. That's hard. So, but do you have a favorite moment from the show that you
Oh my
kind
God,
of
I have
stick
so
out?
many. I have so many. Now, I will say this. I have not watched season 2. I've only watched season 2, I think, twice. I've watched season
Okay.
1, it feels like 100 times. So I have more moments from season 1 probably, but
Right.
I go through these like funny moments. One of my favorite scenes of the whole show is in episode 1 of season 1, where we have James Davis is trying to put his pads on in the locker
Okay.
room, and he can't get the pads over his head, and it's like what feels like hours. I mean, and he's just like struggling to get the pads on, and everyone's watching him, and no one's helping him. And I mean, I don't know why it cracks me up every time I watch it. That's one of my favorite moments. I obviously love the scene with Ollie when he's sitting behind my desk and he says,
Yep.
"I hated you," and then he's like, "I don't know if I hated you," and he's like, "Yeah, I hated you." um, that scene is funny to me. I mean, just a sweet kind of authentic moment between the two of us. I love the moment where I try on his head. I tell him to go to the bookstore to buy his books, and he comes back with headphones. Um, and then in season 2, one of the funniest moment in season 2 to me is the defensive line. Or they're in a team meeting, a defensive line meeting with Coach Williams, and Cam takes his shoes off. And Coach Williams goes, "What's that smell?" "It smells like corn chips." And then he's like, and then somebody's like, "Man, Cam took his shoes off," and he's like, "Man, put your shoes on. That's just wrong. It's just
Yeah.
disrespectful." It smells like, it's so funny. That scene cracks me up. But I will say my all-time favorite scene of all 2 seasons. I like the funny moments really, but
Right.
my favorite scene from both seasons, if I'm ever in a bad mood, I can flip it on and within 2 seconds I will be crying laughing, is the Joy Behar scene in season 1.
Okay.
It's the homecoming episode. I think it's like episode 4,
Okay.
when one of our players tells Marcel Andrew that he looks like Joy Behar, and he thinks that Joey Behar is a man. It's hilarious. That scene, I just can't. I lose it every time. It's just hilarious. Yeah.
It's always great to look back. Sometimes like memories just pop into your head, and you can't help but laugh, because you're doing some work, and then some memory just pops in the
Yeah.
back of your head, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow.
It's funny.
Was it easier? I just want to ask you your decision about to leave scuba. Was it, when you look back on it, was it easier for you to was it easy for you to do that, or was it really strenuous and hard to make that decision?
It was really hard to make that decision. It's probably been one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. And looking back now, I don't know how I did it. Like, I look back now and think like, how did I do that? Like, how did I have the confidence, and like, how was I that brave that day? I don't know, because it wasn't like I was leaving because I had taken a position at LSU. It wasn't like I had gotten this great job offer from some SEC school and I was taken off to bigger and better things. I mean, I was leaving to go out on my own and bet on myself. And I was leaving a steady paycheck with benefits and all the things to like go out on my own and work for myself and start my own company. And looking back now, I have no idea how I did that. Like, how I made that decision, and then just how I walked out. I don't know.
Do you think some of the players, and like, because the players that were there, they're basically doing what you did. They're betting on themselves. They're trying to get back, to where they're supposed to be, like at the D1 level. But do you think you kind of drew a little bit of inspiration from the players you worked with?
Definitely. And I think, in season 2, there's that scene with Jay Johnson and I where he says, like, it's your turn. Like, you believed in us and it's your turn. You've helped us reach our dreams, and now it's your turn to go get yours. And, I think there were several players that really were pushing me, not because they wanted me to go, but because they knew I needed to go. Like they knew that, I needed to get out of there. And I don't know, maybe they had, maybe it was them that they just kept saying it to me, and then it's sunk in, kind of the opposite. I mean, kind of exactly what I was doing with them. I kept telling them, like, you can do this, you can do this. I believe in you. I believe in you. And they were kind of doing it to me at that moment. And it gave me the confidence to do it.
A couple of years later, you actually published your book, Next Chance You. Almost a year now. I think it was published in September of 21.
September of last year. Yeah. Yeah.
What led you to write that? Was it just your overall experiences at Last Chance at EMCC or throughout your life? Just what kind of drew that inspiration for the book?
Yeah. I had been asked by, I had been approached about writing a book, and I just wasn't sure. I knew, I didn't want to do a tell-all. I didn't want to like throw anyone under the bus. That seemed very, out of character for me. And so I was, I couldn't figure out what I was going to write about. I felt like a biography would have been very short and very boring. And I drew the inspiration, honestly, from the fans of the show. I, still to this day, I get emails from fans that say, watching you on the show inspired me to go back to school and finish my degree, or watching you on the show inspired me to completely change my philosophy as a coach, and this is what I've done. Or, or I'll get, I wish I had you as a player. I would have, it would have worked out differently for me, or whatever. And I was getting those emails from 15-year-olds and from 55-year-olds and from men and women and Americans and people in Germany. I was getting the emails from people of all different kinds, And so I thought, why don't I just package it all, and put it in a book, and then maybe I can continue to inspire, I can continue to motivate, I can continue to help change people's lives by just kind of putting all of the life lessons that I've learned and that I tried to instill in young athletes, just writing it down. And so that's really what I did. And honestly, it was the fans of the show that inspired the whole thing.
I was looking through your book a little bit yesterday. One of your core pillars is like show up.
Yeah.
What always was told to me and it was instilled in me was, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, don't bother showing up. That's what was always instilled in me. But one of your core pillars is show up. Can you just talk about what you mean by show up, and maybe some of the rest of the core pillars of your?
Yeah. I think you see a little scene of it in the show, but the first meeting of the year with every team I worked with, I would always say, I've got one rule, and that's, we're going to go to class. Like, you're not going to make the best grade possible in a class you don't attend. And, there were always those athletes that would challenge that. There were always the athletes that would, could make a C and never go to a class, but I would always say to them, yeah, but you could have made a B, if you had gone, you would have made a B. And I feel the same way about life. I feel like we can live a mediocre life by going through the motions. We can check the boxes and go through the motions in life. And some of us will survive. Some of us will be somewhat successful just going through the motions. But if we had actually showed up for ourselves, what would we have achieved then? And so that's really that first chapter. It's about showing up for your life, in a meaningful way, like really figuring out what's important to me. What are my priorities? What relationships are important to me? And then what am I going to do to be my best self, and making that a priority. And I say in that chapter that we're a society now that is always on our phone. We're always looking down. We're always documenting everything. And in my opinion, that's not showing up, because you're not where your feet are, and when you don't stop and actively experience a moment, you're not showing up for it. And so, that to me, like, that's where you have to start. It's just making the decision that you're going to actually live your life. From there, I talk about fear a lot. I think the second chapter is about fear and kind of overcoming your fears. And, I certainly have not experience in that, but overcoming those fears and continuing to keep moving forward. I also talk about opportunities and how all opportunities aren't shiny,
Yep.
and that happens a lot in athletics. You want to, you just want to play football. That's I just want to play at the next level. And then
Right.
when, Akron offers you the scholarship and not Ohio State, all of a sudden, it's not the right opportunity.
Yep.
And so I talk about, how all opportunities aren't shiny, but it's still an opportunity. And it's your responsibility to take that opportunity, to wipe the dust off of it and to make it something, and if you're the one that makes the opportunity great, not the actual opportunity. I also talk about making mistakes, obviously, and then powering through those mistakes. And then I end with kind of my magic wand story, which is about DJ Law and how there are people in this world that sit back and wait for somebody else to wave the magic wand. Somebody else is going to save me. And, I end the book basically by saying, you're your own magic wand. No one is going to pull a magic wand out. I couldn't save, I didn't save these athletes. I may have put the framework out there for them, but ultimately they had to do it for themselves. And that's true in life. Nobody's going to save us. Like, we have to find it within ourselves to do the work, to put forth the effort, and to keep going. And if we will wave our own magic wands, we can be anything we want to be, but we've got to be willing to do the work.
Also, I saw this doing a little research on you, and I know you've done a bunch of interviews and everything, and you talked to a bunch of people about the book, but recently it was announced that Courtney Cox is playing you in a movie.
Yeah. Well,
is that not happening anymore?
Well, probably not, but maybe.
Weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, Courtney Cox, Michael Strahan, we had signed a deal together to do a scripted series about my life where Courtney would play me. That all happened right before COVID, and I think COVID kind of killed it at this point, but it's still a possibility, I guess. But we lost a lot of the momentum when COVID hit.
Yeah, because like having like one of the biggest TV stars or biggest stars playing you, that had to be. What was that like in the moment? Because she, being on Friends and everything, and just in the moment, what was it like when you first got that news that was happening?
Yeah, you pinch yourself.
Yeah.
I felt like I was pinching myself constantly because you're constantly, seeing stuff or reading stuff or talking to people that you think, how am I even in the room?
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of them. When you get that email from Michael Strahan asking for a conference call, and you're like, what? And then
you're probably thinking, is it spam?
I did. I totally thought it was spam. And then we get on the call and Courtney's on there, and then when we followed through with it and everything worked out. We went to LA together and pitched the show to different networks, and she came here to where I live a couple times, and we hung out, and I went to her house. And I mean, it was an incredible thing for her to even know who I am, is crazy. Right. But then for her to be so inspired by what I did, that she had, wanted to play me in a TV show was next level stuff, She's a great person. I'm a lot like her. She's a lot like Monica, and I'm a lot like both of them. And so we do have a lot of similarities. But she's incredible. And, I wish that the show had moved a little bit faster and we had been able to get it done, but I guess there's still hope out there for it, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's always hope. But what do you like when you're not doing, your motivational stuff and, interviews like this? Like what do fans, tell fans, like, what are you usually doing? Are you just taking care of your daughter? What do you like when you're not doing, interviews and stuff? So
I am a professor actually at the University of Montevallo.
Okay.
which is here in Birmingham or right outside of Birmingham,
Okay.
Alabama. I teach 3 different classes at Montevallo.
Okay.
In their business school, they have a sports studies minor, and so I teach in that department. I love it. I love my students. It's funny. They walk in and I think that they think it's a joke, and then they're like, "Oh my God, it really is you." But I think my class is different. I mean, I'm very, we have open discussion. It's not, I don't sit and lecture.
Right.
I want us to talk and get different opinions. So I love that. I love the students. I love being back on a college campus. I'm also a boxing coach.
I did see that. I saw the clip of you on Twitter. You listened to Drake's new single. I don't know what the
Yeah.
it was on that.
Yeah. So I walked into a boxing gym, I guess 3 years ago, and I'd never hit anything in my life. And I put those gloves on and went through a boxing workout, and it was like nuts. I loved it so much. So I took up boxing. I guess I boxed probably for a year, and then they approached me asking me if I'd be interested in coaching. So I went through all the training and did all that. And I'm a boxing coach at a gym here in Birmingham. We have 2 different locations. Right now I'm coaching about 9 classes a week. Once the school starts, I'll drop back down. But so I love that. I actually coached this morning. So I got up at 3:45 a.m. because I had to coach at 5:15 this morning.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
I know. But it's good. It keeps me motivated and keeps me going. So I do that. I do a lot of motivational speeches, and now I'm back on the road doing it. For a while I was
Okay.
doing everything Zoom, but now I'm in person again. So I love doing those because I'm I get to meet people all over the
Right.
country, fans of the show, and it's still fun to get up on stage and tell the stories and try to motivate people in that way. And then I have a 14-year-old daughter who I'm basically an Uber driver for. I just cart her around, and yeah.
I mean, I feel like that. No, that's what like my parents did. I'm grateful
Yeah.
they did. They drive you everywhere. They waste so much gas
Yeah.
on you. I just want to ask you about. I've written some story. I've written like 2 stories on Coach Marcus Wood. I just published a story on Bo Wallace.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you just give me like what your favorite moment or a favorite interaction with either of those 2? It doesn't have to be both of them, but just like if you could remember your interaction.
Yeah. Coach Wood and we worked together for a long time. I mean, we were there together the whole time. So 8 years. We had some he was offensive coordinator. So there were definitely some interesting players that we had to work together on. I'm super happy for him now in his new job. I remember his sons, which they're old now, but I mean, his sons used to just run around, they were little and they were always around. And it was kind of like a family thing, with them always being around.
Mhm.
Bo, I love, Bo was really great. So Bo came in and he was super shy. I mean, he was just this quiet kid. He didn't really talk to people. He just kind of kept to himself. Really good player. All the girls liked him. He was the cute quarterback. So he had all the women liking him. But probably my favorite moment with Bo, I mean, obviously we won a national championship under him, and he played a heck of a game that day. But I was at the game when he beat Alabama at Ole Miss.
Okay.
And I followed him. I went to the Ole Miss games quite a bit when he was the quarterback there. And to be in that stadium when he beat Alabama and see that team lift him up on their shoulders and cart him off and people chanting his name. And I mean, that was an incredible feeling to know that, I had a little bit of a hand in that. Bo was a tight fit. We had to get him eligible very quickly. And so he had a lot of hours. I mean, he had a hard academic schedule that last semester, and it wasn't a surefire deal. I mean, it was just a lot. He was taking a lot of hours. And so it kind of came down to the wire with him. And really good kid, though. Really fun quarterback. Probably one of my favorite quarterbacks that we had there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because you had I think probably the most, I don't know, I'm not going to use the word notorious, but probably the most famous quarterback was Chad Kelly came through, right?
Yeah. Chad, and Chad was after Bo.
Right.
Chad, I enjoyed Chad too. It was weird because Chad probably had more of the bad boy image,
Yeah.
more so than Bo. But for me, Chad was easier. I mean, Chad was very focused on academics. I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do academically. I never had to worry about Chad going to class or, submitting assignments. I mean, Chad was on top of his academics. It was his off the field stuff that we kind of had to monitor a little bit more. Bo was kind of the opposite. I had to stay on him academically and hold his feet to the fire a little bit. And, but so they were similar in a lot of ways, and then both really funny. Chad I got stories for days on Chad. Chad was something else.
I could imagine with the nickname like Swag Kelly. I could imagine.
Oh yeah, and he lived up to it, every bit of it. Yeah.
I want to thank you for joining us. I just got one last question for you. I know your book. Anyone can go read your book and find inspiration on struggles they're going through. But just like, could you give one piece of advice for people that are going through struggles right now? There's so many struggles people go through, whatever it is, but just one piece of advice you could share with us.
The world is nuts right now. I look at it and I think nothing's permanent, and I know that when we're going through something hard, it seems monstrous, it seems permanent, but the phrase, everything's temporary, nothing is permanent. The good won't be permanent, the bad won't be permanent. Nothing in life is permanent. And I think for me, I have to tell myself that a lot. When I'm in a valley or I'm going through something, I have to say to myself, like, this too shall pass, like this,
right.
This will not last forever. And sometimes you need to put the boxing gloves on and you need to fight through it. And then sometimes you just need to hold on. Sometimes you just need to sit and you need to breathe and you need to wait for the bad to kind of pass. And, I think that for anybody that's going through anything, to just hold on, like, don't make any decisions, don't make any permanent, don't allow your brain to get you too deep in that valley. Like, just hold on, because it will end. Like that pain and suffering and sadness or whatever it is that people are going through, it will end.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff people go through. It's crazy nowadays. Where's your next motivational speaker event at, if you have?
So this is interesting. In August, I will be speaking at the University of North Alabama. Okay. I'll be doing their student athlete kind of orientation. I'll be working with the athletes there in August when they come back to school. I'm really excited about this. I've never done this before, and so I'm a little nervous, but also in August, I will be working with a prison here in Alabama. I'll be working with the individuals that work at the prison. So trying to motivate, inspire, and help them, establish relationships that can hopefully create change with inmates that are at that prison. So
gotcha.
Never worked in that. Yeah.
That sounds crazy. That sounds amazing, actually.
I know. Yeah. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks for joining us, Brittany. I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out our other videos, and don't forget to smack that subscribe button down below while you're at it. Also, for more great and original content, head right over to bvmsports.com.